Thank you, and I'm happy to be part of this. We've participated in this conference before, so it's a great opportunity for us to kind of highlight a number of different programs in Vermont for students with developmental disabilities and autism. I'm Bryan Dague. I am a research assistant professor at the Center on Disability and Community Inclusion at UVM. And the CDCI is it's a USED program that's University Centers for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. Each state has at least one USED program. So we're the USED for Vermont. So our mission is to serve people with disabilities and their families through their lifespan. And I'm the director of the Think College program at UVM. So that's what I'll be talking mostly about today, but sharing a number of different programs. So first of all, we have we developed a post-secondary ed consortium through the state of Vermont with developmental disabilities, hireability, formerly known as folk rehab, and the Agency on Education, and then the number of different programs here. So we work together collaboratively so that we can explain what the programs are and what the differences are, because there's kind of subtle differences between them. But we meet on a regular basis, and just work together with these programs. So this is a matrix of the agencies that are part of the post-secondary ed consortium. So today we're going to be focusing on the three in the middle. Those are the college campus programs, but I'll mention the others. So Project Search is a high school transition program that works with students, and it does vocational training, and it's located in the medical centers. So there's 3 in Vermont. There's Dartmouth, UVM Medical Center, and the Rutland Regional Medical Center. So those are high school transition training programs. So that's kind of on the beginning end of it. And on the other end, we have lifelong learning with global campuses. And those are a number of chapters set up around the state where people with developmental disabilities actually are the teachers, and they teach different topics. So that's a lifelong learning option. But today we're going to focus on the college campus programs. So that's the Howard Center has their Succeed program, Think College at the University of Vermont, and then College Steps program. So Howard Center's Succeed program works with UVM and other CCV and other area colleges. The University of Vermont, we are obviously with UVM, but we also had some students take classes at Champlain College. And then College Steps is located in 3 different locations in Vermont. Northern University, Northern Vermont University, so that's Linden and Johnson, and then Castleton University. So I'm going to talk about Think College first of all, because that's where I am. I'm the director of that. And we started this in 2010. We received a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Education. It was a 5-year grant. And there were a number of these programs around the country already, serving students with intellectual disabilities. And the government put some money into these programs to do a demonstration project and to see how effective they were. So we were one of 27 grants awarded in 2010. They awarded another 25 in 2015, and I believe another 25 in 2020. So there are a lot of programs similar to this around the country because they have proven effective. So we set it up as a 2 to 3 year certificate program. More recently, we do have some students that are degree seeking. While we were on the grant, we had pretty strict criteria that we had to serve students with intellectual disability. But since the grant ended in 2015, we're no longer bound by that criteria. So we've expanded that a bit. So we still do serve students with intellectual disability, but we also serve other students with other developmental disabilities and autism. And we're seeing a few more now that are actually our matriculated students on the autism spectrum, that need a little bit more help to be successful than what's offered in the University Disability Services Office. So currently we have 14 students in the program at UVM. over the course of the program, we've had 40 that have completed their certificate. We cross 25 different academic departments within the university, and we've had over 30 vocational internship sites. And then peer mentors are a huge part of our program. So we'll be I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So the admissions criteria for Think College, and it's similar to all three of these programs. So they're not that different. But we look at transition age, so generally 18 to 26. That's not set in stone. That's sort of the federal definition of transition age. We look at documentation of a disability and need for that support. Transportation plan, as we do not provide transportation. And students must demonstrate functional communication and basic literacy and math skills. And students demonstrate a moderate level of independence, motivation, and emotional stability. Moderate flexibility and ability to handle kind of a stressful situation. And this one I think is really the most important, is the student really desires to continue their learning experience, increase autonomy and independence. Some students might want to come for the university experience, but it's really all about the academics and learning. So that's really important. And students in the programs are UVM students, and they must comply with the UVM Student Code of Conduct. Family and guardians support the student's education. That's the second part. People ask me what the most important things are that I look for, and that's that the student really wants to continue their education and that they do have a supportive family and team behind them. Our students are continuing ed students, so they work toward a certificate of college studies. But as I mentioned, we have been getting more students that are matriculated students that are degree seeking. So expectations of our students, that enrollment in the Think College program and these other programs are a privilege, and they're not an entitlement. It is a voluntary program. And UVM students are held to the Student Code of Conduct, as I mentioned, in terms of behavior and academic integrity. These programs are a little bit vulnerable, I guess. When we started the program, we stayed pretty kind of quiet and under the radar. But over the years, we've expanded the program and we've become really well known. We're pretty widely accepted, at least within the University of Vermont, for our program. And we do have accommodations for the students, but not modifications. So the UVM Student Accessibility Services, that's our Disability Services Office, they can offer a number of different accommodations for our students. That could be a note taker in class, extra time on exam, have a scribe help them to write their exams, things like that. So those are the accommodations that can be offered for the classes at UVM. So when we got the grant, they had some really clear expectations of what they wanted these programs to look like. And they wanted us to address these 4 areas. So the first being academic enrichment. So they wanted these programs to be set up where students would take typical university classes. So that's how we've set that up. And we're a pretty inclusive program at UVM. We don't do a lot of programming specifically just for our Think College students. We have been doing a little bit more of that lately. We developed a friendship and relationship class that our peer mentors actually developed that and implemented that, just because we were seeing needs that weren't being met within just sort of the university setting. That's kind of the friendship and dating thing was an issue. So we developed a curriculum for that. And we've also done some employment curriculum and things like that. But for the most part, it's a very inclusive program, and that students are UVM students. Second part being social and recreational activities, that we wanted the students to have the full college experience, so they can participate in social recreational activities, they can join student clubs, and as continuing ed students at UVM, they have access to almost everything that the other UVM students do. So we encourage them to get involved and participate in university activities. Our third area is life skills and self-advocacy. We do not have a residential component at UVM, but we do have residential option. In the past couple of years, we've had a number of students living at the Redstone Lofts, which is an apartment complex on the UVM campus, and only UVM students can live there, but we do not run that through our Think College program, so students have to have a certain degree of independent living skills. But the other skills, life skills and self-advocacy skills, are developed, and students work on that as sort of just experiential in working with their mentors. A lot of it is just skills they pick up by being a student at UVM, just learning to become more, organized, increasing their, improving their communication skills and things like that. And we can also tailor it to students' needs. So if a student wants to work on something specific like budgeting or health and fitness or public transportation, we can work that into the student's plan so that they can develop those skills. Then the fourth area is career skills and work experience. So we encourage our students to explore different careers, the classes that they take. We try to align them to a career goal if they have one. And then each student will do a vocational internship, usually in their last semester, based on their career goals and something that they want to do. So we don't have any specific sort of set internships. I develop them based on what the student wants to do. So I mentioned peer mentors, and they're part of all of these programs, and they're really the most important part of the program, in my opinion, because setting this up, the grant criteria is they wanted these programs to be very inclusive. And the best way for them to be inclusive is to be supported by typical students that are already at UVM or at the other colleges that College Steps supports. This would be rather than outside staff or paraeducators providing the support. Peer mentors provide that support. So at UVM, I currently have 14 students that are enrolled in the Think College program, and I have 30 students that work as peer mentors. And it is a paid position for them. Each student gets 15 to 20 hours a week of one-to-one support by peer mentors. So that's a lot of hours to cover, so I need a lot of mentors. But they're just really wonderful in providing support to the students. So their role is really just as peer mentors. They're not therapists or counselors. They're just there to support the students, so that can be communicating with the instructors, preparing for class, and planning assignments. They do attend class with the student, kind of help them with that and do additional note taking and things like that. Help them study and review their coursework, developing relationships with peers, and they just really support them in the college class, to do well and, raise the expectations and really foster independence. And overall, just helping them navigate college life. Each student, I mentioned they have 15 to 20 hours a week that they're on campus, and the mentors are all full-time students, so they have busy schedules as well. So it's all based on their availability. But any student could be with, could be 3, 4, or 5 different mentors throughout the course of the week, which we think works out really well because they don't become dependent on just sort of any one mentor. They get to meet a lot and interact with a lot of different mentors, and then there's social groups and things like that.
Hey, Bryan, I have a question from one of the attendees.
Sure.
So one is, if a student has, here it is. If a student has an IEP from their high school, will the college be able to follow that IEP? Is there any special requirements for that following the student?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. That is allowed. We can have students in these programs as part of their transition program, where the high school would pay the program fees through their IDEA funding. We haven't had a lot of those, but we've had a few of them, and I know College Steps has had more. But that's definitely an option. And in my opinion, that's kind of the preferred option, especially if they're going to be in school for an additional 2 years, rather than just sort of repeating what they've already done. They could do 2 years with their transition plan at UVM in the Think College program.
Excellent. Thank you. And there's another question.
Sure.
You might get to this, but how do students fund these programs? Is that part of their FAFSA process? Is there something they should be doing there?
I will get to that. That one's coming
Okay.
up. I'll hold off on that.
Great.
And this one I just wanted to throw in, it's been 10 years now that we've been doing this Think College program at UVM. And I don't know if I mentioned earlier that with those, all the grants that were funded, there is a national coordinating center at the University Institute for Community Inclusion at UMass Boston. So they kind of coordinate a lot of these programs, and we've been following up with them in terms of data collection and things like that. But within UVM, our program has had a big impact. In the course of the 10 years, we've had over 150 peer mentors work for us. 50% of them have been through the College of Education and Social Services, but other 50% have not. They range from biology majors to genetic majors, and they have different reasons for being part of it. With the instructors, a lot of them have learned to sort of incorporate universal design for learning, and kind of challenge some of their teaching methods. They've been great. They want our students to learn and have the best experience they can. And then the overall college and university has had an impact. We are a student employer. We're probably one of the larger employers, having 30 to 40 mentors. And it just adds to the diversity of the university. So it's been an impactful program. So that's UVM, and I'll talk about the next, the other two that we have. So we have College Steps, and that is located, I mentioned, at Castleton, and then Northern Vermont University at Johnson and Linden. And I believe they are working on developing Champlain or CCD as well. Their start was actually with the Think College program. When we got the grant, UVM was the host site, and we had a sister satellite location at Johnson State. So that's, we had a Think College program there. That turned into College Steps, and then they replicated that at Linden and Castleton. So their model is almost identical to ours, to our Think College program. So they address the same 4 areas of academic enrichment, social integration, independent living, life skills, and work experience. So they're very, very similar programs. Their eligibility, documentation of a disability, very, very similar to what I mentioned earlier with Think College. Interest in pursuing academic instruction via college, and aspirations for independent living and vocational autonomy. So very, very similar models. The primary goal of College Steps is prepare students for meaningful careers and autonomy after graduation from college. Therefore, they place strong emphasis on self-advocacy, employment, independent living skills. So these programs are similar, just different locations. And then the third one is the Howard Center's Succeed program. Again, very similar. They are a post-secondary ed program as well. So their students take classes at UVM or at CCD or Champlain College. It's their choice. It's not exclusive to UVM, but they have a lot of students take classes at UVM. They also do more education classes just for their own Succeed students, looking at different life skills and things like that. And they work on career development, campus life. But the main thing about Succeed, which differentiates from the other program, is they're a residential and independent living program. So that is their main goal, is transitional living. Their criteria is very similar. High school graduates between 18 and 25, Vermont residents who meet the Medicaid waiver and eligibility system, because that program has the residential component and Medicaid waivers, the funding for that. They need to meet independent and safety requirements, and they are required to live in the residential program and participate in that. And that also is a voluntary program. They have 2 houses in Burlington, the downtown area. So that's their residential component. And then they also have the transitional apartment programs that are attached to these houses. And then when they're finishing the program, they help the students develop independent living options within the community. So that's the one sort of big difference between the Succeed program and Think College and the College Steps program. So their supports, guidance philosophy, they have a kind of a mobile team to support the students. They do more intensive supports up front and then try to fade that and help them to develop more independence. They do provide the sort of the academic supports as well, and more community-based, given it's a residential and transitional living program. So here comes the question on funding. So how are these programs funded? So there are 2 different cost for this. There are the program fees and then the college tuition, and those are separate. So program fees can be paid by the home and community-based services, that's Medicaid waiver. So the students that are in at least Think College, most of them use their Medicaid waiver funding to pay those fees. And for Think College, and I think College Steps is very similar, it's $16,000 for the academic year for our program fees. Some of the developmental disability provider agencies have been providing some additional funding if they don't have enough in their Medicaid. And then the IDEA funds, which you mentioned earlier. So students in their high school transition programs, can participate and use their IDEA funds for the transition services. And also they could use their Social Security past plans or ABLE accounts, or private pay, if families have the ability to pay that. So those are the program fees. So those are supporting the Think College or College Steps program or the Succeed program. And then the tuition is extra. So students that take classes at UVM have to pay that tuition, but they can get some supports for that. It's for UVM, students usually take 1 academic class per semester. So that's 3 credits. And I believe that's about $2,080 for a 3-credit class. There's the VSAC, I think it's called the enhancement grant now. They're formerly known as the non-degree grant, can provide up to $3,000. Evoke Rehab has been providing tuition support to students in the program. Past plans, if students are in a high school transition program and they're still considered high school students, they are eligible for 2 classes that can be paid. The tuition can be paid through the dual enrollment program through Agency on Education. Classes you can take it for audit or for credit. Take it for credit or audit. At UVM, there's no difference in the tuition. I believe that the College Steps program, if you audit it, I think it is cheaper. A lot of our students will take it for audit. They'll still get credit toward their certificate. They just don't have to worry about getting a letter grade or getting a failing grade. Or a private pay or other community scholarships could be available for tuition. Let's see, I'm going to kind of try to finish up here so we can have some questions. One of the goals of these programs was to increase employment for people with disabilities, to help them to gain skills and education so that we can help them get better jobs and more of a career path in the community. So according to the National Association of College and Employers, employers are looking for employees to have a certain number of soft skills. They're really looking for communication, a strong work ethic, initiative, interpersonal skills, and teamwork. The U.S. Department of Labor has recognized that these skills are equally important for youth with disabilities, but they are often lacking in those skills. And programs like these, Think College, College Steps, and Succeed, have been very successful in kind of building these skills for the students. The communication ability, by taking academic classes, and being part of a university, that certainly helps their communication, both written and verbal communication, helps them develop a strong work ethic, because the classes are difficult. They do struggle with them because they're not modified for them. They are taking regular university classes. Initiative, students must show motivation, initiative to be successful, and the interpersonal skills is probably one of the bigger things. Just learning those social and communication skills by being UVM students and by being around the peer mentors, that's a huge part of the success of these programs. And then just learning teamwork, that's a big part of being a college student as well. Just quickly mention, our post-secondary ed consortium did get a policy award through the Zero Project last year. It's an organization, an international organization whose mission is to have zero barriers to people with disabilities around the world. So we were fortunate to be recognized and received a policy award from the Zero Project last year. And here's our contact information, and I will open it up to questions.
Bryan, can you pop your screen of contact information back just for a minute? Because
Sure.
it kind of went really quickly.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. And Bryan, will this be available? Will you make these slides available to us? We can post on VSAC, the site?
Yes, I will definitely make these available.
Great.
I'll leave that up for a bit.
Great. And if folks would like to unmute, or if you would like me to field some questions. Okay, here we go. Here's one. What does the application process look like for students in these various programs?
Again, with Think College and College Steps, I know they're very similar. I have a separate application for our program, and it's not complicated. But it is different because they actually aren't applying to UVM. They're just applying to be part of this program. Same with College Steps, because they are continuing ed students. So again, what I look for is that the student again have those functional skills, some functional academic skills, because we really want them to to benefit by being in the classes. And as I mentioned, just really a motivation to continue their education and a supportive team. So that I can make available. If people are interested, I can make our application available in College Steps as well. Succeed would have their own kind of different application. It's a post-secondary program, but again, I mentioned it's mostly the living component, so it's a little bit different.
Great, thank you. Thank you. If we can go to the presenter screen now, and then I'll ask this next question. That way we can see each other a little bit. Yeah, might be all right. There we go. Yeah. Thank you. So the next question, Bryan, is what constitutes documentation of disability? Can that be the high school IEP, or does it need a formal letter from a medical provider or someone else?
No, it can be the high school IEP or psychosocial evaluation or anything like that. You have a lot of the applications just include their IEP, which is sufficient.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I do not see any hands. Let's see. All right, we can wait a minute or two. If anyone has any questions for Bryan, I think his email, Bryan, why don't you give me your email and I'll type it in the chat. I think it was your first name dot last name.
Yeah, Bryan.
Yep.
DAGUE.
Yep.
At uvm.edu.
Perfect. It's out there now for the whole world.
That is it. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I can just talk a little bit more. I kind of went through the slides, but just that it's our 10th year now that we've been involved with this program. And I have to say, it's just really, I feel it's been an incredible program, and just sort of watching the growth of the students. It was really difficult at first kind of recruiting students, because people thought, well, kids with intellectual disabilities aren't going to get into UVM. But they didn't understand that this was a program specifically designed for students with intellectual disabilities, and there as continuing ed students. But in the time, just seeing the sort of the relationship with the peer mentors and the students has really been incredible. At UVM anyway, and I think it's similar with the others, is that I have no problem recruiting mentors. I often get more applications than I need, because a lot of these mentors have been involved with either Special Olympics, Best Buddies. They worked at summer camps. They have siblings or relatives with disabilities, or they're just interested in the social justice aspect of it. But they've just really been quite amazing, and they provide really wonderful support to the students, because it's mostly them. The staffing I have at UVM, we don't have the staff we used to have under the grant. But it's myself as the director. I have 3 lead mentors that take more responsibility, and then 27 more mentors. So they're really the heart and soul of the program. So they're the ones really providing the support. And then we meet on a weekly basis and discuss the students and how they're doing. And they also have they do support logs for each shift that they work. So we kind of keep an eye on how the students are doing. And they've really been incredible with just helping with the academics and helping students succeed. And a lot of it's stuff I don't necessarily see just in my position, but a lot of times the families will tell me how much they benefit from being part of the program, and especially being with the peer mentors. And if you ask the students what their favorite part of the program is, 99% of the time they say it's being with their peer mentors. They just really appreciate that, because they're not, a paraeducator. They're not, older adults. They are peers their own age, and there's other college students. So they really appreciate that. And I think they really benefit from those relationships.
Right. That's great. Is there any, how are parents involved? How do, I know once students go to college, it's, it's less, you get less information so how can parents help or support or help their students to stay connected or adjusted and transition in well?
Honestly, that's probably one of the more difficult parts of this program, is that that there are different rules. And again, it's called the Think College program or College Steps, but there's really no such thing as like a Think College student. They are UVM students, and there are rules that apply. The biggest being FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and that does change. And we do have family orientation at the beginning of the year. That things do shift as high school students. The parents have access to teachers and records and all kinds of things like that. At the college level, they do not. Parents do not have access to their child's student records. They are not supposed to contact the instructors. And some of the instructors take that very seriously. Actually, UVM takes FERPA very seriously. They have to. So it's something that I have to kind of monitor. We try to balance it. I don't want to kind of leave parents and families out of the loop. We want them to be, included and let them know how the student is doing. But at the same time, it's going to college is an opportunity for students to break away from their parents and develop more independence and autonomy. And it's something that we want to do with our students as well. So it's kind of a difficult balance. We want parents involved, but not overly involved. I guess that's my answer.
Right.
To that.
Right. That is the case, for sure. Thank you. I have another question. Could you share examples of what students are doing after this program or any of the other programs that you mentioned?
Yes, we have a good employment rate. Students probably about 90% of the students that finish the program are employed in community-based jobs. Let's see, one student really wanted to be involved with self-advocacy. He aligned his classes, with that, and he's recently been hired by Champlain Community Services, in their self-advocacy group. So he works with them as a peer mentor, I believe is his title. So he's doing that. We have a student that actually works in my department. She's our kind of dissemination assistant for Think College. So she helps with our social media newsletter. She's also our party planner. We do some Think College parties. So she coordinates those. And then we have students working at senior care facilities, some at Marshall's department store. It varies. It varies.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll give another minute, see if there's any more questions coming in. Would anybody like to unmute and ask your own question? Feel free to do that. And you can stay, or you can head out to your next, take a break and then go to your next session if you'd like. The session link is in the chat for all the other sessions today, kind of the agenda for today. There's a form of links, so you can jump to that if you'd like. And you can take a little break, and we'll see the next group of people at 11:30. We'll go to your next. Oh, there's another message. Let's see if we have any more questions. This has been very helpful. Thank you, Bryan. And then, do any of these programs offer open house programs?
Well, I do, at UVM, if people want to take a tour, I encourage that. They can sign up for the UVM tour. They have there's typical tours that they go around the whole campus. But I also encourage if people are interested to come and meet me on campus. I kind of go over the program with them, and then they have the opportunity to meet some of the students and mentors. So that's really helpful. They can kind of see more what it looks like, because we don't have any a common spot. We don't have a landing place. Most students kind of gather at the student center.
Right. Are there, what times of year is that typical for the fall? Or do you have things throughout the summer?
We don't have much in the summer because we don't have programming during the summer. People can still come and take a tour. It's just they won't have an opportunity to meet the students and mentors. But anytime during the school year, I'm always happy to host. And there are these high school bridging programs that that come and meet with us and learn about Think College as well. Great, thank you. Another thank you. So thank you everyone for attending. We hope you have a great day, and thanks for joining this session. And one more session. Thank you so much. Thank you.